Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Danati Swabanantikam Namam Vishnapada Krishnapasta Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pachayine Nivashisha Shunyavari Pasatari Satarine Vanchakapa Tripasha Kripa Sanivevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktabanda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing with the chapter 8 of Canto 6, entitled The Narayan Kavacha Shield, verse number 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yathai Bhagavan Eva. Yathai Bhagavan Eva. Vastuta Sat Asatchayat. Vastuta Sat Asatchayat. Satyena Nena Save. Satyena Nena Save. Yantuna Shambupadrava. Yantuna Shambupadrava. Yathai Bhagavan Eva. Vastuta Sata Satchayat. Satyena Nena Nasave. Yantuna Sham Upadrava. Ladies. Yata, just as he, indeed, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Eva, undoubtedly, Vastutaha, at the ultimate issue, Sat, manifested, Asat, unmanifested, Cha, and Yat, whatever, Satyena, by the truth, Anena, this, Na, our, Sarve, all, Yantu, let them go, Nasham, to annihilation, Upadravaha, disturbances. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The subtle and gross cosmic manifestation is material, but nevertheless it is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is ultimately the cause of all causes. Cause and effect are factually one, because the cause is present in the effect. Therefore, the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can destroy all our dangers by any of his potent parts. So there is no purport, and I will read the next two verses, 32 and 33, and I will just read the translation to save a bit of time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entities, the material energy, the spiritual energy, and the entire creation are all individual substances. In the ultimate analysis, however, together they constitute the Supreme One, the Personality of Godhead. Therefore, those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge see unity in diversity. For such advanced persons, the Lord's bodily decorations, his name, his fame, his attributes and forms, and the weapons in his hand are manifestations of the strength of his potency. According to their elevated spiritual understanding, the omniscient Lord, who manifests various forms, is present everywhere. May he always protect us everywhere from all calamities. So now we have a purport. A person highly elevated in spiritual knowledge knows that nothing exists but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:4, where Lord Krishna says, Maya titam idam sarvam, indicating that everything we see is an expansion of his energy. This is confirmed in the Vishnu Purana 122:52. Ekadeshastitasyagner yoshna vistariniyata parasya brahmana shaktis tadtedam akhilam jagat. As a fire, although existing in one place, can expand its light and heat everywhere, so the omnipotent Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although situated in his spiritual abode, expands himself everywhere in both the material and spiritual worlds by his various energies. Since both cause and effect are the Supreme Lord, there is no difference between cause and effect. Consequently, the ornaments and weapons of the Lord, being expansions of his spiritual energy, are non-different from him. There is no difference between the Lord and his variously presented energies. This is also confirmed in the Padma Purana. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Pumashudo Nitya Mukto Binatvanamanaminaho. The holy name of the Lord is fully identical with the Lord, not partially. The word Purna means complete. The Lord is omnipotent and omniscient, and similarly, his name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and everything pertaining to him are complete, pure, eternal, and free from material contamination. The prayer to the ornaments and carriers of the Lord is not false, for they are as good as the Lord. Since the Lord is all-pervasive, he exists in everything, and everything exists in him. Therefore, even worship of the Lord's weapons or ornaments has the same potency as worship of the Lord. Mayavadis refuse to accept the form of the Lord, or they say that the form of the Lord is Maya or false. But one should note very carefully that this is not acceptable. Although the Lord's original form and his impersonal expansion are one, the Lord maintains his form, qualities, and abode eternally. Therefore, this prayer says, Patu Sarvai Swaruperna Sadavash Sarvatra Sarvaga. May the Lord, who is all-pervasive in his various forms, protect us everywhere. The Lord is also present everywhere by his name, form, qualities, attributes, and paraphernalia, and they all have equal power to protect the devotees. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam explains this as follows. Eka eva paro Vishnu Bhushahiti Dvaje Svahaja Tatat Shakti Padatvena Swayam eva Vyavastita Satyena Nena Mamdeva Patu Saveshvaro Hare. Okay, so first of all, I must admit I feel a little embarrassed that I knew the Prabhu is here listening. So I'm humbly asking for some blessings here. I was hoping he would not come, but okay. So yes, first of all, we continue with the prayers for protection. And as we know, or we will hear, Indra receives this mystical mantric armor from Vishwarup, and that way it empowers Indra to conquer the demons and enjoy life after that in opulence until the next fight comes. Right? So we can say this is somewhat the attitude of a devotee who is not pure, a sakama devotee, you know? Because we often, Prabhupada was often saying that when there's a war, everybody is running to the church praying. And then when the anxiety subsides, then everybody goes back to their pleasant life, you know? So, and it seems really to me that Indra has this mentality, and actually not only Indra, but all the demigods. We have so many pastimes where this is happening, when the demons are becoming too powerful, there's too much disturbance, the demigods are in anxiety, so then they all run to the Lord and take shelter and beg him to do something. And then, you know, if the tension is alleviated, then they continue enjoying their opulence. So, and yeah, the purport in verse is actually very similar to that what we discussed yesterday. In essence, really, that yes, the Lord is supreme, everything comes from him, he is the source of everything, he expands himself in so many manifestations and energies and potencies, and actually everything, he is there everywhere, you know. And actually we can say throughout the Bhagavatam, this is again and again and again established. in so many parts of the Bhagavatam, you know. Also in Bhagavad Gita, aham sarvasya bhavavo mata sarvam bhavatate. So that even gives us the purpose why this is again and again established, being that we finally surrender unto the Lord, you know. That verse says, I am the source of all spiritual material worlds, everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engages in my devotional service and worships me with all their hearts. That is actually the essence, why this is stressed again and again and again, you know. And also we can, in so many purports, we can see how Prabhupada is taking every opportunity to make some comments about the Mayavadis, you know, even in this purport also, that their understanding is false and cannot be accepted, and because, yeah, very clear, when Mayavadis, if there's no personality, then no need to surrender to anybody, no need to serve anybody, right? So it is basically, you know, stressed so much just to bring us to this point of surrendering and serving and understanding, yes, Krishna is everywhere, he is everything, everything comes from him. He is eternal reality, and I better worship him and serve him, you know, like that. So now, since, you know, yeah, on a little comment, you know, that it is also like yesterday, it was also, Prabhupada pointed out that because the Lord's decorations and paraphernalias are non-different, we can pray to them and we can worship them. And yes, we also often do this, you know, that actually some jewel that the deities were wearing, that's Mahaprasadam. We can put it on our altar, we can worship it, right? Yes, very often we actually do this, you know, yes. So, yeah, but since this whole chapter is targeting this topic of prayers for protection, I'd like to focus a little bit on the highest form of protection. Because, as a rule, because we are so attached to our bodies, you know, whenever we pray for protection, it is usually we are thinking of protecting the body. But the body, you know, Krishna may or may not protect the body, because the body will ultimately be destroyed anyway. So that is not the highest form of protection. Actually, the highest form of protection is remembrance of the Lord. Yes, that's good to remember, that is really the highest form of protection, because that's what will save us at the moment of death, to remember Krishna, right? And Krishna says in 8.5, Antakale chamamevasman muktva kalevam. So, if you remember me alone, then you will surely come to me. So to remember Krishna alone, not so easy. Not so easy. Yes. This requires some intense preparation. And I guess that's why we also hear again and again the instruction. Krishna says, you know, focus your mind on me, think of me, you know, again and again. Or we have that instruction, I think Padma Purana it is, you know, to the highest rule in devotional service is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. And all the other rules are simply meant to be servants of that rule, because that is really the main and foremost thing we have to somehow cultivate, and we hope that at that moment of death we will remember Krishna. But also it is interesting to understand that actually it is not in our hands. You know, we have the verse Savasya Chamudi Sanivisto Matas Mitagyanam Cha. So Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So there we have it. Actually, Krishna has to kindly appear on the level of our minds. It is up to him whether we can remember or not remember. It is not in our hands. We cannot force our way into transcendence. It is simply up to Krishna's sweet will. And in this regard, I have a couple of nice stories which really illustrate this, that it is not in our hands, you know. Like in Ukraine, I know one Mataji, she's been, 20, 25 years in Krishna consciousness. So, and some years ago, before the war started, long before, she had a stroke. And she was paralyzed on the right side, which means left side of the brain is damaged, which means remembrance, speech, everything gone. Completely gone. You actually forget everything. It's like deleted from your memory, you know. So, and then if one is lucky, it gradually comes back as the brain recovers. So then later, when she could speak again, I asked her, so what was it like that time where everything was gone? Because she didn't even know her name anymore. Well, you see, everything was deleted. She couldn't remember her name. She couldn't speak a word of Russian. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Everything was gone. So when I asked her, so what feeling was it? You know, I mean, you imagine, having a complete blank brain there and you cannot remember even your name. I mean, this is quite an unusual situation. So I asked her, and she gave this interesting answer. She said, yeah, it was a little bewildering, but actually there was one thing I could remember, and that was the Maha Mantra. And I was just chanting in my mind the Maha Mantra, and I knew I would be okay. And I thought that was remarkable, If a person can't even remember their own name, but the Maha Mantra, they can remember. That was the only thing she could remember. I mean, from a medical point of view, this is a complete mystery. How a person can nevertheless remember the Maha Mantra. Yes, I thought this was really amazing. And then there's another little story similar to this. One Prabhupada disciple, one Mataji, her name was Isha, Mother Isha. She also had a stroke, and that remembrance didn't come back. And unfortunately, there was nobody really who could take care of her. She ended up in a nursing home. But one thing was, she was just singing the Maha Mantra through the corridors of the nursing home constantly. She couldn't remember anything, but she was just singing all the time, Kirtan, Maha Mantra. And she was known to be, the lady that chants the Hare Krishna song. Yeah, she is in room number so-and-so. So now, Naranja Swami told this story because Mother Isha, she was like the senior Mataji in the temple in Boston when he joined there, when he was a brahmachari. And he was saying to me, yes, Mother Isha, she is my mother in Krishna consciousness. So he felt really sorry that she ended up in this nursing home. And he thought, okay, let me go and visit her. So he drove in America there quite a few hours, 3-4 hours, to get to the place where she was. So, and then when he met her, she couldn't remember him. She couldn't remember nothing, And Maharaj was sharing how initially he was a little disappointed. He was trying to tell her, you remember Niranjan? I'm Niranjan, you remember me? But she couldn't remember anything. All she was doing was singing the Maha Mantra. And then Maharaj came to this conclusion. Actually, whether she remembers or me doesn't matter at all. The main thing is she remembers the Maha Mantra. And that she surely did. She was singing it the whole day, you know. Yeah, so these are nice little examples how actually Krishna, by his sweet will, you know, he appears in the form of the holy name on a devotee's. The person may not remember anything, and we can even say, well, it's a blessing actually if all this nonsense is deleted and all the unnecessary things we forget. What a blessing, you know. The only thing we have to remember is the Maha Mantra at the moment of death, you know. Yeah, so nice little examples, you know. And then also I had an example. This was when I had just joined. I was only about 6 months in the movement or something. And I had to get some tiny little insignificant surgery done, but they put me in a quick anesthesia. And I had heard, yes, you should remember Krishna. So I was thinking, okay, let me put this to a test. Let me remember Krishna at that moment when you fall unconscious. But I didn't remember Krishna. And I was afterwards really shocked. I thought, wow, you know, this was not such a perturbing situation. You know, it was just a minor little surgery. And I didn't remember Krishna, you know, because I was a very new devotee at that time, and Krishna did not appear within my mind, you know. So it is not all at all actually in our hands. It is actually Krishna's way, how he reciprocates, yes, with his sincere devotee. So in regards to remembrance, there is in Chaitanya Bhagavat a nice little section where this importance of remembrance, it's a very different kind of a prayer than what we are reading here. You know, there it says, one should not desire to be elevated even to a place in the heavenly planetary systems if it has no propaganda to expand the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no trace of Vaishnavas, pure devotees of the Lord, and no festivals for spreading Krishna consciousness. It would be better to live perpetually crammed within the airtight bag of a mother's womb, where one can at least remember the lotus feet of the Lord, than to live in a place where there is no opportunity to remember his lotus feet. I pray not to be allowed to take birth in such a condemned place. You know? Yes. So, I mean, that makes the point strongly. You know, better to be crammed in the airtight bag in the womb of a mother, where at least, that's how it says in the Bhagavatam, that we do remember the Lord there, and we regret and hopefully this will never happen again, that I'm taking birth again, you know. So better that than some situation with heavenly pleasures or something where there is forgetfulness of the Lord. Actually, you know, because it says here that this can protect us. Yes. May he always protect us everywhere from all calamities. So we can really say the biggest calamity is forgetfulness of Krishna. That's the biggest calamity, you know. And in that regard, we also have a nice prayer of King Kulashekara in the Mukunda Mala Stotra. My dear Krishna, please help me die immediately. Very, very different than what we are reading here, you know. Please help me die immediately, so that the swan of my mind may be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible for me to think of you? You know, that should be our biggest fear, that we will not be able to remember Krishna. So, and that's why he prays, let me better die right now, where I'm not an invalid and facing so many bodily disturbances. So at least then I have a better chance to remember, you know. So, but then also there is a nice explanation in the 11th canto. What happens when a devotee, by external circumstances, may not be able to remember the Lord? You know, because one may live in such a way that, well, yeah, external situation will not allow us to nicely focus, you know. Yeah, that's what I'm always afraid of, to leave my body in such a situation where I don't get the chance to focus. That's why I personally think cancer is a good way to leave one's body, because one gets a good warning and one can really let go of all kinds of luggage and, you know, think, where do I want to leave my body? What devotees do I want to surround myself to help me? And this is great. This is the greatest blessing. Yes, no, truly, I'm not just saying it, you know, but yes. So, but in 11th canto, 7th chapter, verse 6, we hear in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, those great souls who have surrendered unto me are always equipped with transcendental knowledge and detachment from the material world. Sometimes, being busy in their devotional service, they may appear to forget me. However, a pure devotee who has achieved the platform of love for me will always be protected by such sincere devotion. Even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life while neglecting to fix his mind intensely on me, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him all protection. Even if there is a temporary moment of forgetfulness, such devotion will bring the devotee to my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of ordinary materialistic persons. So, very nicely explained, you know, that even if there is a moment of forgetfulness, never mind. Again, Krishna, you know, will do. He will appear, and the devotion of the devotee will connect him with the Lord anyway, and that will, appeal. Krishna is attracted by that devotion of the devotee, and therefore he will somehow or other appear there, you know. So, but again, we can't just say, okay, so looks like I'm safe, I don't have to endeavor that much. Krishna will do, even if I'm in forgetfulness. No. As it very nicely says here, it is actually all a matter of relationship. You know, it is all a matter of relationship. Because, you know, it says, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him all protection. So, you know, first of all, we have to get there. that our loving feelings for the Lord are really so powerful. Because that's ultimately what we are tested in at the moment of death. Which relationship is most dear to us? You know? Is it really our relationship with the Lord? Or is it our relationship with our husband, wife, child, grandchild? You know, often the grandkids are the main charming attachment then in old age, that people get always so affectionately involved and attached to the grandchildren, you know. So, if there's any other relationship which is more important to our relationship to Krishna, with Krishna, well, then we have to do another round in the material world and finish off this more important business, you know. It's a very subtle thing, you know. So that's why the relationship with Krishna is so crucial that we develop that. And of course, you know, in the purport again, it is hinted at the holy name, or not hinted, but mentioned. The holy name of the Lord is fully identical with the Lord, not partially. You know, so how do we develop this relationship with Krishna? Of course, by chanting His holy name. And if we really think about it, that Krishna is really non-different from His holy name, this is quite amazing, actually. This is almost mind-blowing. You know, of course, we've heard it all so many times and we repeat it, but to actually realize it is a whole different story, you know. Because, yeah, Krishna, by His unlimited mercy, He expands Himself into the material world through His holy name. And it is said, chanting the holy name gives the same benefit as meeting Krishna face to face. Wow, amazing, you know? Because we all know how important association is. When some elevated personality comes, our guru or sannyasi, or, you know, we're all keen to get some association, you know, because we know it's so uplifting, so enlivening. And that same experience, that same effect, we can actually get by chanting the holy name, you know. But yeah, and our unfortunate position is that we don't receive Krishna in the form of the holy name with that same respect and attention and service mood, and that's our misfortune, you know, that we often just we blabber the holy name down, you know, doing this and that while chanting, driving the car while chanting, and so many things. Ooh, this is almost useless, that kind of chanting, actually, you know. And I mean, also yesterday we heard about the importance of attentive chanting. So I want to expand a little bit on that more, because I like to see attentiveness on 3 levels. Attentiveness on the level of the body, on the level of the mind, and most and foremost on the level of the heart. Right? And Bhaktivedanta Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, he also talks about this. You know, in attentiveness on the level of the body, he calls laziness and sleep. Then in attentiveness on the level of the mind, he calls distraction. And in attentiveness on the level of the heart, indifference. And this is our main problem. And of course, body, mind, and heart, they affect each other. It all starts on the level of the body and mind. Otherwise, there's no talk about the heart, you know? So unless we have this habit of chanting while doing other things, then the mind will be distracted and the heart will be completely somewhere else, you know? So it all starts on the level of the body, mind, is a challenge. But also, His Holiness Sachinanda Swami Maharaj very nicely explains that we should not get caught up in a boxing match with the mind, which is a nice way to put it, because very easily we do that. The mind wanders, okay, bring it back. Mind wanders, bring it back. Yes, sure, we have to bring the mind back, but the secret is to involve the heart. Unless we involve the heart, we just remain on this boxing match level with the mind, But once we involve the heart, then we have more chance that the mind is actually drawn to the heart, because the heart is involved, right? So, and I like, in regards to chanting, because I do like to conduct holy name retreats in ISKCON over Christmas. I usually do it. It's a very nice experience. So I always like to emphasize two main points. The first one being relationship. We have to really deep in the heart mindfully turn to Krishna and call out to Him with that mood, Krishna, I know you are there, please accept me. Because who do we think we are that we so easily are accepted by Krishna? There has to be a longing there, Rupa Goswami, Loriam. There's longing for Krishna. With that longing for Krishna, for the relationship, that's how we have to chant. Or as we know, the child crying out in desperation to his mother. Yeah, there has to be some desperation, some longing, some intense longing for the relationship. And in order to do that, we really have to mindfully turn towards Krishna when we chant. And already that can easily be missed, Very easily we can completely cut Krishna out of the picture. In our so-called Krishna consciousness, we can easily cut Krishna out of the picture completely. We keep ourselves busy with so many plans and projects and ambitions and running. And then, hey, what are we doing for my relationship with Krishna? Because that's the only thing we will be able to keep at the moment of death. Everything else completely unimportant, insignificant. Doesn't matter how much we did and how well known we are and this and that. No significance, absolutely nothing. Simply curtain closes, show is over. And the only thing we're allowed to keep is my relationship with Krishna. And very easily there may be some lamentation. Oh, again I blew it. I put so much effort in so many things, but not in this relationship with Krishna, Yes. So, and this is what we do when we chant. That's when we do something for this relationship. But only if we mindfully turn to Krishna when we chant. But if our mind is so busy, what we all have to do and planning and this and that, if our japa time is a plan-making session, then absolutely nothing will happen in our relationship with Krishna. We have to really turn towards Krishna when we chant. And then the second secret is what means attentiveness on the level of the heart. So mindfully turning to Krishna is the first one. And then not only longing for the relationship, but longing to serve. Actually, ultimately, this should be a devotee's main and foremost prayer. Longing to serve. Longing for the relationship, longing to serve. So, and whether Krishna protects us from this calamity or that calamity, it should not be of the greatest concern, actually, at least if we strive for pure bhakti. All we want is, connect with Krishna and serve. And whatever situation we may be finding ourselves, you know? Yes. And that longing to serve, that establishes us in our constitutional position of Dasya. You know, it's actually very simple and logical. If we spend 2 hours every day turning mindfully to Krishna, Krishna, I know you're there, please accept me, I need this relationship, I want this relationship, then surely something will happen in our relationship with Krishna. It will become tangible reality, right? Very logical and simple. And in the same way, if we long to serve for 2 hours every day, or 2.5, or whatever it may take to us to chant, so then ultimately sooner or later we will come to the point where we get it. I'm servant, right? I'm not enjoyer and controller, I'm servant, right? So, and that establishes us in Dasya, which is the foundation to all other rasas, you know, because Sakya includes Dasya, Vatsalya includes Dasya and Sakya, Madhurya includes Sakya, Dasya, Sakya and Vatsalya, and plus Madhurya. So Dasya is the foundation to everything. So, and unless we are established in Dasya, Krishna will also not reveal, you know, anything further. If there is something else in our eternal relationship than Dasya, Krishna will not reveal as long as we are not firmly established in Dasya, you know. So yes, these are the main, you know, 2 aspects, what it means to be attentive on the level of the heart, that we really mindfully turn to Krishna and we chant longing to serve, you know. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur even makes this heavy statement. He says, chanting which is devoid of longing to serve is useless. Wow. We may have done a lot of useless chanting in our life, you know. Certainly I have, before I heard all these things, you know. I definitely, you know, have done useless chanting. And it is useless because it will not establish us in Dasya. It will not free our heart from all these upadhis and false designations. That's why it's in the ultimate sense useless, you know. And like Satchidananda Swami Maharaj has this nice comparison. He calls chanting which without turning mindfully to Krishna, he calls that empty medicine capsule. That also says everything, you know. From outside it looks like the real thing, you know, a capsule, a vegetarian capsule, of course, no gelatin capsule. So you can open it up and usually there should be some medicine inside. But if we chant, not deep in the heart, mindfully turning to Krishna, calling out to him, empty capsule, no result. Yes. Yeah. It's good to clearly understand. And I mean, really, when I look at my own spiritual life, probably the first 20 years of my devotional service, I took empty capsules. Because somehow I never heard and understood anything about this, you know. So yeah, that's one reason why I usually like talking about chanting the holy name, hoping that it may save some of your time. That, you know, you don't walk around taking empty capsules for 20 years until you finally hear something about this, you know. Yeah, so that's the whole point, you know. Remembrance is the highest protection, that Krishna protects our remembrance. And remembrance is not in our hand. He has to, by his sweet will, appear on the level of our mind, and he will so if we have built the relationship, if our loving feelings are so intense, you know, even though due to external situations, we may not be able to fix our mind on him. But then he will, because he is a person, you know, he is not so cool to say, oh, too bad, you know, you didn't remember me, you know, bad luck, you know. And I mean, maybe I should share one last nice little thing which makes this point, how remembrance is really the highest protection. There is this nice little story which is described in the book Legacy of Love about Ladini Mataji, who was a Prabhupada disciple, and she was serving in one of the North African countries. Was it Libya or something? One of these countries. It was in the, I think it was in the end 80s or beginning of 90s. I remember hearing that she got shot being there in Libya, you know. And the situation was that there was some, how do you say, you know, somebody turned over the government, and there was a whole riot situation, and there was some of these revolutionaries, they were shooting, and ISKCON was also becoming a target. So she was preaching there, and Bhaktivedanta Swami told her, get out of there, leave the country, too dangerous. But she said, how can I leave? You know, all the devotees are here, I cannot just go and leave them. So she stayed. And then the situation was becoming more and more dangerous, and the devotees, the local devotees there, all had looked for their hiding spots, just in case somebody would storm in with machine guns and. So everybody had their hiding spots behind the Vyasa-san, underneath the Vyasa-san, behind the altar, this, that, you know. But Ladini Mataji, she didn't worry about it, you know. So, and then sure enough, the day came when these, don't know what's the right word for them, these revolutionaries stormed into the temple with machine guns and were threatening everybody. And yeah, I think they shot a few people, but the women there were taken as hostages, so to speak, and they were demanding that they would marry these revolutionary guys, you know. So, and then some women actually agreed to that, just to save their life, but Ladini, of course, not. And they took all the men on the back of a truck outside the city to shoot them. So, and at that moment, when they were raising their guns to shoot the men, Ladini Mataji threw herself in between and attacked them with her fists, you know. Yes. That's how courageous she was, you know. But then they shot all the men and they shot her as well. And His Holiness Vardhana Swami in that book writes a nice little comment about this, because one may say, what is this? Why didn't Lord Nrsingadev protect her? You know, what is this? And you may even lose faith. Oh, maybe Krishna doesn't exist. He didn't come and protect Ladini Mataji, you know. But Vardhana Swami writes a nice little thing which I will quickly read to you to finish the class. She knew 100% that she would die, but better death than standing by and watching another devotee offended. That was her realization. She was one small woman in front of about 20 men with machine guns. They opened fire and killed her. Glorious death. She didn't try to hide. She wasn't even ready to leave when she was told to leave. To her, it was an offense to walk away when devotees were being harmed. That is faith. She has gone back to Godhead as far as most of the senior leaders of our society are concerned. And she left behind a wonderful lesson. It is said that Krishna always protects his devotees. One may ask, why didn't he protect her? But I have to reply that Krishna did protect her. Here we have it. At that time of her final exam, she had complete faith and confidence in the Supreme Lord's mercy. She was willing to give her life to personally serve other Vaishnavas. The fact that she could maintain that consciousness even under such unbelievably difficult circumstances is a greater type of protection than protecting our body. Krishna may or may not protect our bodies, but eventually we have to die anyway. If she had just lived until 90 years old and died as an old lady, we would not remember her the way we do today. Krishna protected her. At the most difficult time, when your faith and conviction is tested, she got A+. She stepped forward as the servant of the Vaishnavas. Very nice. Nice explanation of what is the highest form of protection. You know? Yes. Okay, so let me end here and see if anybody has some comment, question, correction. Nothing? Come on. Yes, Madhuri.
What about devotees who commit offenses to other devotees? Will they be protected?
Devotees who commit other offenses to other devotees, will they be protected? Well, who am I to say? That's simply up to the will of the sweet Lord, you know, or sweet will of the Lord. So, but one thing is, you know, we do know, you know, Krishna doesn't so easily tolerate every offender's devotees. The devotee himself or herself may tolerate, but because the devotees are so dear to Krishna, you know, especially as they become more pure, you know, a devotee conquers Krishna's heart. He feels completely obliged and indebted to the devotees, actually, you know. So, yeah, offending devotees, I mean, this is the main and foremost reason, I believe, why we don't make so nicely advancement, because we are offending devotees, you know. And yeah, the other day I came across a statement of Prabhupada's godbrother Sridhar Swami. He says, whether it's true or not, talking about faults of a Vaishnava means blasphemy, even if it's true. Oh my God, you know, how often do we talk bad about the devotees, you know? Last Bhagavatam class I gave, I was elaborating on envy, you know, how that is a sign of envy, that we just can't help ourselves, we have to make that comment, but his kirtan was not, the melody was not so nice or whatever. So even if it's true, it's actually blasphemy. And I mean, we have that experience, you know, that elevated souls, they never talk bad about anybody. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So this is a pretty serious matter, you know. At least not talk bad about anybody in public to somebody who's, you know, who it is not his business or something, you know. So of course sometimes in due course of our service, if we, serve as a leader, temple president, counselor, department head in charge or something, we may have to discuss a certain person's engagement in service or something, but just simply talking bad about devotees, this is Vaishnava aparat, Yes, even if it is true. That's the whole point. Yes. So, and yeah. Because even though we may have so many shortcomings, but at least we are trying, we're trying to serve, and we are in the wash, so to speak. So why talking bad about each other, pull each other down or something, Yeah, so, I mean, I cannot really answer this question whether Krishna will still, appear in our memory. It depends probably on so many things, who we offend and whether we feel repentant about it, whether we apologize or not. And I don't think we can give some general answer to this. But yeah, as we know, Vaishnava aparat is the mad elephant offense, and our whole bhakti ladder can be destroyed just due to that, Yes. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
Remembrance Krishna, like the Chanting did. And it reminds me of the degree in which a devotee is absorbed in, the holy name, the deities, their service, and it's mentioned how the Ragatmika bhaktas, those like Yada Shoda and the Nitya Siddha devotees, they're always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Even if they're putting rubbish out, they're doing it for Krishna. And so that absorption, it's not something that you can decide on, because it's what's naturally in the heart.
Mm.
And that naturally evolves over time in the meditation of the if they're chanting Hare Krishna, even if the chanting is offensive, better than no chanting. But of course, we develop that mode of absorption throughout chanting, which is, I think, what you're communicating. But my question is, what's the mechanism? If we're chanting Hare Krishna, then that's a gateway to that absorption.
Mm.
Gateway to. So, what's your experience in establishing that connection through chanting?
Okay.
How do you actually do that? When you sit down, what's your mechanism for connecting?
So what's my mechanism for connecting? And also you were talking about the absorption. Let me first quickly comment about the absorption. I guess this is where Varnashram comes in. Because as long as we don't have a natural attraction to chanting and hearing, to Shravanam Kirtanam, we have to be engaged according to our nature. And naturally, it is much easier to really absorb the mind when you do something which is according to your nature. Then it's easier to absorb. Like a person who is a Vaishya type person, he will get absorbed in making money for Krishna. But if he has to stand all day on the altar there and doing aartis, because it is not his nature, will be more difficult for him to absorb himself. So that's my understanding, that's why in the initial stage it is so important that we are engaged according to our nature, simply because of that we can more easily absorb ourselves. But then as we become purified, because when we get closer to death, we will not be able to do our activities. We will get to the point where this is all taken off us. And I have observed this many times, that when a devotee has not really made effort to build up some deeper internal life, then when there's some big health crisis coming and you cannot serve anymore, one may fall into a complete hole, into a vacuum, and then there's depression there. Or now nobody needs me anymore, I cannot serve anymore. Then we have nothing to fall onto. And this is, for example, also one point in my course about Vanaprastha ashram, which I have put together, Vanaprastha, that around 50 plus, it's advisable to deepen up one's internal life, because sooner or later we will not be able to run all day and do so many things. We will not be able to have achievements, big external achievements. We have to switch towards internal life. And better to do this before the body and the health forces us. Because if we haven't built up some internal life, there's nothing to fall back on. And I have observed this even not so long ago. One devotee in Germany, he was one of the big book distributor heroes for many years. He was out there in book distribution. And then he got a really heavy disease. And unfortunately, he did not have much internal life built up, and he fell into a complete hole. And he got really, angry with Krishna. Oh, why are you doing this? And he left his body in not such nice circumstances, unfortunately, Even though for so many years he had performed such valuable service. But that's what can happen if it rather happens on the external level. And there's not so much internally built up, So, so that's about absorption. But also you're asking me, how do I do it? Well, as I described, I simply try, and be attentive, first of all, on the level of the body, that I don't do other things when I chant. Even japa walks are not as attentive, for me anyway, as really sitting down somewhere and chanting, And then I try to involve my heart, turning mindfully to Krishna. Krishna, I know you're there, please accept me, longing for the relationship. It's a lot of hard work, And then sometimes we manage quite nicely, but then again the mind takes us, so again, we involve the heart, and. So, and then we can also experience that some days we're doing much better than other days. And usually those days where we don't do so well, it's when there's so many issues and the mind so much we have to do and. So a certain level of peace of mind is required, you know. Otherwise it's too difficult to really absorb and involve the heart and so on, you know. And the mind is just too preoccupied with so many other things, you know. Okay. My voice is getting a little croaky. I don't think I can say much more, actually. Yes. Mm.
And he was with Krishna and Krishna was with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was chanting, and then he just put his beads down. He said, I can't chant, what am I supposed to do?
Just say, I never heard about that one.
And so, it's a dilemma, because when you chant Hare Krishna, then naturally thoughts of service will arise. Naturally. Right? Because that's what we're praying to Krishna for. When you chant Hare Krishna, you're asking for service. And service means making plans. Usually, right? So that's why that Brahma Buddha and that early rising is important. As part of the sadhana, is important for the right. You've gone to bed to rest, and then you wake up early at a time when it's naturally peace. Because as soon as the sun comes up, as an antidote, if you like, to that natural accumulation of lists and plans, and that's not bad, because that's service to Krishna. I was reading there's in the ISKCON Communications newsletter that comes out on a weekly basis. There's this lecture where Prabhupada says, make plans for Krishna and he'll be very pleased. Right? But of course,
But maybe not during chanting.
no, that's right. That's the point that you're making, is we're chanting, but that's the point where that's the point where we're establishing that mood of surrender to Krishna, mood of I'm your servant, right? And then later on, naturally these things will come out as part of our sadhana. It's an extension. So that's a bit of a conundrum, because on the one hand, we're told not to make plans while we're chanting, but by the same token, when we chant, then plans will come. It's natural, and Prabhupada says that's pleasing to Krishna. So, the antidote for, good, for japa is get up early in the morning and chant at a time when you just sit down and absorb yourselves in the holy name. Just keep at it. You may not be successful every occasion.
Yeah, but what I also find very powerful is when at least once a year, we put everything aside and we go on a holy name retreat. Yes. I mean, the best rounds I can chant is when I'm in that mood, that I really say, everything can wait. Nothing is more important than the holy name. It can all wait till Monday, you know. And I remember last year on Nirjala Ekadashi, I was in Radhadesh, and there the whole community was striving for setting a goal, making a vrata, how many rounds you chant. And most people had 64 rounds, you know. And everybody put their vow on a board with the numbers. And first I thought, oh no, I don't like this so much. But then I thought, all right, let me join. And this was such an amazing mood, you know. And on that day, I was really focusing on this thing that I will not open my computer today. I will not do anything else, just chanting. And this was amazing. It was really a different quality of chanting, to just park everything and just focus on the holy name. And the whole community did it. And throughout the whole day, there was always devotees in the temple room chanting. And then every now and again, one person was reading different little things from the Japa meditation book or some different books, just, you know, 2 minutes to help us focus. And it was such a nice mood in the temple room, because often I like to also chant outside or something, but then when I went in the forest, I thought, no, what am I doing here? Let me go back to the temple room, you know. And it was really an amazing experience, amazing energy generated, you know, and because of this combined effort of really putting everything aside, parking everything, and just focusing on chanting, not using mobile phone for a whole day, you know, no phone, no computer. Chanting holy name is everything. There's this nice Shri Kevalastikam, Harinam Eva Kevalam, you know, the holy name alone is everything. You know, so I highly recommend to have such phases, you know. After that experience in Radhadesh, I thought, God, I should do this every Ekadashi, you know, because as traveling preacher, I could actually arrange my life like this. But unfortunately, I haven't since then, you know. But this would be amazing if we could make such a, you know, such a sankalpa that we say, okay, every Ekadashi, we park everything else, everything can wait. Nothing is as important as the holy name, you know. And with that approach, we will not be distracted by so many plans and ideas. And then the chanting is something different. Yes. But yeah, unfortunately, I've also not done it too many times, but yeah, it's worth to try and build that into one's life, you know. Because sooner or later the time will come when we will not be able to make plans for devotional service, you know, and then we have to have something to fall back on, you know. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. Untitled Bhāgavatam ki, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki, Gaura Premanande, Hare Hare.